Hey, 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 you know me. It's Dr. Cheryl Bryant Bruce, MD, the celebrity doc. And I am here with my show host, my co host, the fabulous Hisham Helmati, Hurricane H.
Hello.
And we are here with, again, another fascinating guest, Angelica Robles. Angelica has been places that most of us will never see, in situations that most of us can't even begin to imagine. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, and then I'll share with you where we're going with this show.
Hi, everyone. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. So, my name is Angelica Robles. I'm a former undercover agent, Forbes published, international best-selling author, motivational speaker, and mindset coach. I have been interrogating drug dealers, killers, murderers, the scum of the earth for the last 18 years.
What a job!
Ooh,
Wow. So you have dealt with some really difficult characters doing some really horrendous things, and you have come through this safely. Now, hopefully, most of us are not going to be in that situation, but on today's show, I would like to talk about how people can maintain their personal safety and the safety of their families.
Yes. So we can talk about different levels of safety, right? So we can talk about safety at home. We can talk
Mhm.
about safety outside. We can talk about digital safety, which is a big one.
It's a big one
And
now.
yes, digital safety, a lot of people don't realize the digital safety and the identity fraud and the scammers and the hackers are an all-time high right now. So we could
Hmm.
talk about those different levels. So there's the physical, and then there's a cyber, and then there's the actual your home. So your safe place. So you just tell me where you want to start.
Well, I think I want to start with digital safety
Okay.
because we're on the internet here, and this is what we do. But the internet has become such a big part of our lives and such an intrusive part of our lives. How much intrusion really is there?
Yes, it's huge. I think we live in an era that is dominated by online profiles and online lifestyles. And
Mhm.
everybody is obsessed with posting. We post
Yes.
our food, we post our places, we post our every single move. So much so that we don't even need to be out there in the streets following you. All we have to do is follow your phone, follow your pings. We can follow your Instagram, where you're going, where you frequent, who your friends are. I mean,
Mhm.
you people are giving us an insight on their entire lives, where you work, where you eat. So the first thing that I always tell people is never post in real time. Never. Never post in real time. Never post your kids' schools. I know a lot of people are like, yay, look at my kids. Never post your kids' schools. Never post pictures of your car with your license plate showing. A lot of things that people don't think about.
Oh, that's a
Yes.
good one. I hadn't even thought about that one,
Yes.
obviously.
And then people also like to flex, and they will post their brand new bags. They will post their brand new red bottoms, their fancy watches. Look at what happened to Kim Kardashian, somebody that has a lot of money to be able to take care of herself. And look at what happened with her. She was posting diamonds and how she was moving, where she was, where they were staying. And a lot of that has to do with your digital safety. You know, always post afterwards, maybe even a day later of where
Mhm.
you're at. But I think we are so innate and we are so obsessed with look at me, where I'm at, what I'm doing. So digital safety is everything. I mean, now you we can steal credit card information from the pump, from the pump at the gas pump. So
Oh yeah, I've
all
seen
that,
I've seen some of those,
you've seen it happen.
skimmers that you actually throw in there, and some people have cameras. They just take a snapshot from a distance, and you literally
Well,
can zoom
yeah,
in. Yeah,
yeah,
and you
right.
have those fake covers that people use. I
Yes,
mean, that's happening. Well, you did
yeah.
mention something, Angelica. That is we post a lot, and one of the common things we post now is our birthdays,
Mm.
which is the 50% of your identification is your birthday, because
Your
everything
birthday.
is about your birthday and your social, right? And then there's other ways they can get the social. So now you're already given half your location, your address, your name. They know everything about you. So all they need is a little bit more, and it's done. And they can actually track you, as you said. They can tap into your phone. Now we have those wallets, and there's so many things that's very easily,
Well,
you know.
the crazy thing is we post in real time, and we are giving the world the keys to our routines. So
Right.
I know that Dr. Cheryl leaves her house at 8 o'clock because she's having her coffee at 9 o'clock. So guess what? She's not at home from 9 to 5 because she's seeing patients. So this is the best time for me to go break into her house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we for vacation. Oh, we're going away. And
Yeah,
that
yeah.
means the house is not working. I mean, and by the way, this I know for a fact. They can dismantle your Wi-Fi, therefore your camera and all your alarm can also
All
be
that stuff.
dismantled.
All that stuff. Yeah, we can we I say we, right?
Well, you as
We,
an enforcer, but yes,
me,
but
yes.
technology exists.
They can hack into your baby cameras. They anything that has a Wi-Fi connection can be hacked into. Anything that has an IP address can be tracked. This is why people don't realize that. So, I worked for the government for many years. My cell phone has a VPN. My computers have VPNs. And for those that don't know what VPNs are, you can switch your VPNs so it looks like you're in Dallas when you're really in California. So
Uh-huh.
that's one of the things that I always tell people, invest in a VPN. You can get one online, you can get an app, and it will secure your phone and your laptop and your MacBooks or whatever it is you have. But another thing I'm going to tell you guys, and you guys are going to hate this. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Don't
Ooh.
have your passwords to your life saved on everything. I know you guys are going to hate me for this. You lose your phone or if you lose your MacBook, guess what? A hacker can just go in so easily and take everything. Bank account numbers, social security numbers, everything is in your phone because we have the password saved. And I know you guys are going to hate me for it because it's like, oh, that's so inconvenient until it happens to you and
Right.
your identity gets stolen. And then now you got to deal with the credit and the accounts that are being open and all that stuff. But
That's the real inconvenient part.
that's the real inconvenient part. Yeah.
Well, there two couple things. One, I think for VPN is definitely, I have VPN on my phone, and by the way, some of the phone companies, they do provide VPN
Yeah.
services.
Yeah.
That's
They do.
already there. You just gotta like activate it, and it's there. So
And use it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're not on my contact list, you call right now, it's just gonna drop you. At least I put you as a contact. You
Right.
and my rule is this: if you want me, really want me, leave a voicemail. I'll call you back. Then I add you.
Right.
But you're
Right.
right. So that's one, and also your location is always moving. You can be in Europe while you're in the States and vice versa. So it doesn't matter. You just select the location, and you're never going to be close enough. And then the other thing, you talk about passwords. There is password vaults where you can actually have those things also digitized and cover. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Are
But
those safe though?
It's safe to an extent, right?
oh
Because
yeah,
now,
yeah, of course.
yeah, like let me tell you this, okay? This is going to be really funny. Right now, all the hackers are kids that are coming out of college that are like in their 20s, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
these kids were born in an era that they know the new digital world. A lot of the hackers, the black hat hackers, or yeah, they're young, right? So they actually don't know the older stuff like DOS. So when I was working for the government, we still had government documents on DOS computers because the hackers couldn't hack into it because they didn't know, the tab where you had to hit the enter. They weren't even alive when we had that. And we still use fax machines. Like actual telephone fax machines, because guess what? If they're non-digital and they're going on a landline, you can't hack into that. But if you have a digital
Ah.
fax, you can hack into that. So, and here's another thing. God, people are so gullible. Don't click on anything. Don't click on, hey, you want a free $100 Walmart gift card. That's all phishing. It's all these phishing emails and, this engineering that is done to entice you. Like, hey, you want 2 free tickets to so and so. Then you click, and guess what? You got virus. And now they've infiltrated into your phone or to your computer.
Mhm.
Everybody's so gullible, and then they start clicking. You have to look at the email. Where is it coming from? Is there discrepancies? But
Oh, we get them. I've had one for literally it says FBI. I had another one that's Facebook. I had one, and they look legit. But when you look at the logo, you look at the actual, like the grammar, of the text, you'll find errors which typically companies would not do. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so many of those, and you're right. I mean,
yeah, I'll tell you a
there's plenty.
crazy yeah, I'll tell you a crazy story. One of my friends applied for a $5,000 loan through a legit company. It was called like America Recovery or something. I don't know what it was. But he went online and did the entire application. That website ended up being fraudulent. These guys liquidated his entire bank accounts. Not just that, because now they had all of his identity, his social security number, and then get this, they had voice memos. They were able to use AI to call some of his creditors
His voice.
and his voice and
Mhm.
draft back payments that he had made for like his car payment. So I think they got away with like $8,200. And here's the thing, nobody could do anything. The bank couldn't do anything. The cops couldn't do anything because it was untraceable. I mean,
But
they played the videos, because now your voices are videotaped. Yeah, they played it. They're like, it sounds just like you,
yeah,
but
Mhm.
no,
it was AI.
you could. I mean, there's applications, AI apps now that can have your face, your visual, everything, and it's not you. I mean, someone can literally scan you from. Again, we're in the video right now. Somebody can really do a scan of us and be and you have deep fakes, with the voice,
Exactly.
activation that you can have with AI. And I tested it. The app, gives you prompts and you say a couple of words, and then it recognizes your patterns, and basically now you have your voice, and they can put any speech, any text to speech, and it's you really, and the voice
Yeah,
will
the
recognize.
digital world is it's crazy. Like I think everybody has gotten hacked at some level, and it just happens. You think we think that we are safe, but we're not. And there's so many things that you can get hacked into nowadays because our entire lives are part of this digital world. Like the Netflix accounts where people are using your Netflix account, and there's like, who else is watching it? And it tells
Right.
you there's other people watching it. I mean, just stuff like that. It's incredible.
Well,
So
Right. Right.
doctor,
And then go ahead.
good. No, no, I was gonna say one thing about, this happened to a friend, my best friend, literally, and this is something not digital, but it happened. Now he was old school. He still used, like, he wrote an actual physical check and put it in a mailbox, and he put that little thing up, right? And there are actually people today that go around neighborhoods, and if you have that, they'll go and take your mail. And they took the
Right.
check, literally washed it out, changed the name and everything, and they actually cashed the check, with his money, and he had to fight, for a couple of months with police and everything to actually get some of that stuff. And this is not even the digital one. This is just, drive
yeah,
around the neighborhood, and this is current. I mean, so
Right.
don't write checks, don't write anything, don't have signatures and stuff, and put it in the mailbox because that's also subject to anything. I mean,
yeah,
it's amazing.
then
Your garbage
yeah,
is.
and then to go on it with that, okay? The Amazon guys, everybody has Ring cameras. The Ring cameras are not stopping everybody in the holidays stealing your packages at all. Because
Right.
if you Amazon doesn't care, they're gonna leave your package there because that's their job. But it's like then you have, you're at work. So every their neighbors are at work. So you have those Amazon, thieves that come around and then they just take all the boxes and nobody can do anything about it. So now
Right.
this is when you have the people that invest in those big bear boxes that you open and then you put your packages there and you close. And I've seen it a lot in California, but
Yeah. Yeah,
How many
absolutely.
people are going to invest in that, you know? So
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I can think of in terms of digital kind of stuff or telephone kind of stuff, someone sent me over, I think it might have been on Instagram that I got it, or it may have been a text, but they were saying with this new update on the phone that your phone is wide open. So every time you pass somebody, they can access your phone, and it's set so that's on automatic, and if you don't turn it off, you're basically anybody in the world has
the
just full
game, yeah,
access
it's like the
to your
airdrop.
phone.
It's, you know, as soon
Yeah,
as
so
you
you
turn on
have
your
to go in and
airdrop,
turn that
yeah,
airdrop off.
Only contact.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. One of the questions that I have, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it just kind of makes sense to me. We're living in a digital world. I live in a smart apartment now, and so all of this technology is supposed to talk to each other, do stuff, and everyone that has a car and a garage generally has a garage door opener. How hard is it to use those garage door openers? I mean, if you get onto that frequency, how hard is it to get onto that frequency, use the garage door opener and get into somebody's home?
that's easy. That's very easy. In fact, the easiest way to get into somebody's house is through the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, the garage door, once you deactivate it from the sides, if you don't have it padlocked in the middle, which a lot of people don't because they got to get
Mm-hmm.
up and go to work, that's
Mm-hmm.
the easiest way to get in. And forget the windows.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways to infiltrate a house. So now if you want to lead into the house,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you this that I learned being in the undercover world. People don't close their windows. One, two, they leave back doors open all the time. It's
Okay.
almost like you're inviting us to come to your house. I remember I had a friend and she said, "Go ahead, break into my house." I broke into her house so easily and I was in her bed looking at her. I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And she was mortified.
Uh,
She was like, "How did you get in?" And I said, "You left one of the side doors open and one of the windows was open." So all
uh-huh.
I did was I lifted the window, I took the screen off, and I got in.
Wow.
So, but this is a big, big trick that I learned. There's levels of security, okay? So, for instance, you have to have at least three levels or three barriers, as how we call it in the government. Your front door is barrier one.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sleep with your bedroom door open because you're eliminating a barrier. Barriers are how many obstacles is there to get to your
Okay.
bed. Because the more barriers that you have, the more time you have to wake up and be prepared for the intruder. The less barriers that you have, the less time that you have. So, for instance, front door is barrier one. If you have a dog, that's considered barrier two. If your bedroom door is locked, that's barrier three.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody gets in, dog barks, then they got to open your door. By
Mm-hmm.
that time, the dog already alerted you that you're up, right? But if you have a security system, that becomes another barrier because most likely it will go off unless they disable it. And if they disable it, you're dealing with some serious people that want to hurt you. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's when the physical barriers then come into play because now they have to maneuver through your house. Most likely they already have a blueprint of your house, so they know where they need to go, but they still have to take down your door. So that gives you time for you to have your gun or whatever it is you're going to be trying to fight these people off with. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't think of that. There's people
Mm-hmm.
that go to bed with their doors open, front doors open. They're so trustworthy of people. And then, of course, you sleep with your bedroom door open because you never think that anything is going to happen to you. So
What about parents who sleep with the bedroom door open so they can hear the children? What is your advice to them?
I think it all depends. Nowadays, everybody has cameras. Everybody has cameras to watch the babies.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has cameras to watch the kids playing in the playroom. but you're posing yourself in the fact that that camera can get hacked. So then you
Yeah.
don't want pedophiles watching your kids play because that does
Right.
happen. That's another thing that
Right.
does happen. So you just, as a parent, you just need to be vigilant of everything, what your kids are watching, listening to, playing with, who they're talking to at school. So, I work with human traffickers. So,
Oh, so,
Okay, so
Sanjay,
let's talk about that because all of these kids, even the little teenies, have access to the internet now and they have cell phones. How do you keep kids safe? I mean, even if you've got a little teeny one and you've got parent controls on their phone, the minute they step out the door to someone else's house, they have full access. How do
right.
you keep your kids safe?
You just have to be old school. We grew up in an era where we didn't have phones, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have tablets. We were either outside playing, we could have been taken outside, or
Mhm.
I mean, we were watching TV. But you just have to be vigilant. As a parent, you have to be vigilant. I live in Houston. Houston is number 3 in human trafficking. So
Mhm.
I never take my kids to the grocery store. Never. And if I
Mhm.
do, I put them inside the cart. Because guess
Mhm.
what? Seriously, you could put the groceries under the cart or around the kids, but people are less reluctant to take kids that are in a cart because it's more work. But you
Right.
got parents that are looking at this and the kids are running around. They can just take that kid and you never know and stick them in
Right.
a cart because that's what does happen in Houston.
Mhm.
So, it's crazy to think that way, but coming from this background that I have and because I see it and I see the type of kids they take and the age range and where they take them from,
So
it's in public places.
tell us, what type of kids do they take, and what are the age ranges that they're usually taking, and
So
where do
yeah,
they
so
take?
the most sought off after age is 11. And
Mhm.
the reason why 11 is the most sought after is because an 11-year-old is not a baby and it's not
Mhm.
a teenager yet, so it's still a
Mhm.
child. So
Yes.
I know this sounds crazy, but usually pedophiles will want something that's at that age range because the little ones are just too little and then the older ones they just mature and they look like young adults.
Mhm.
So it's crazy, but 11. And most of the kids that are getting trafficked are usually kids that are being ignored by their parents, bullied at school. These are the kids that are looking to feel loved or they're looking to feel some type of validation or they need to belong. So a lot of these kids end up in chat rooms with pedophiles who are then like, "Hey, let's get together. I'll show you out. Let me take you out for ice cream." So you have a lot of that, a,
Mhm.
a lot of runaways, a lot of migrant children. That's a whole different story because these kids are being sold by their
Mhm.
parents into human trafficking. And then
Yes.
of course, you have the young girls that are probably like 11 all the way up to 16 that are being, pimped out. So, yeah. And a lot of these kids sometimes are just stolen from the mall. You're going to think I'm crazy, but my kids have trackers on them. They have trackers on them and they're not like AirPods or what is it, the AirTags, or it's
Mhm.
totally other different technology. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Are you able to reveal what that technology is so that we can take advantage of it?
I can't. I,
Okay.
I can't, but that's just because it's I've worked for the government for so
Yeah,
long.
you've got a unique situation going on
I do
there.
have a unique situation, but things always happen. We just have to be very vigilant of our children and what they're seeing and what they're really digesting in their minds. Nowadays, I don't know if YouTube or YouTube Kids is infiltrated with subconscious messaging. That there was a point where people were talking about some of these cartoons or some of these um, videos that you can watch on YouTube that were masked to be in YouTube Kids that were making the cut. But if you fix the volume or something, you could hear, kill yourself, kill someone else, type subconscious, uh,
Right.
yeah, messaging in the back,
suggestions, yeah.
suggestions. So you just you just have to be vigilant of your kids, who's talking to them, who's bullying them. Nowadays you have to even question the teachers, because then you end up finding teachers have been
Oh yeah.
talking or saying or doing something to your kids. So
Oh yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
it's a
And
it's a cruel world out there.
one of the misconceptions that people have when they think about abusers and kids, they think of them as being male, but the, women are out there just as guilty as the men in terms of being abusive to these children, including sexual abuse and sexual exploitation.
Right. And this is all coming out in Hollywood too, and everybody's waiting for this list. But I always say this, as long as there is addiction and vices, there's always going to be drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, illegal stuff going on. It doesn't matter whether it's kids, it's always there. And I feel that COVID really uncovered a lot of these addictions that people were having, because when COVID hit, drug dealing and the crimes against children, all this stuff just skyrocketed. Addiction went through the roof.
Mhm.
Suicide went through the roof, because everything was being uncovered from being stuck at home and not
Right.
having anything to do, or not having those fixes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the things that I worried about when COVID hit and everybody got sent inside. I thought to myself, wow, you got all of these kids that come from dysfunctional homes and women that are in abusive households, that their only escape is to be outside of the home. And yet now everything has been magnified because not only are they in the home, but they're in the home all the
The
time.
time. Yeah.
So the stressors are all increased, and I just worried about how those babies were going to fare.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's a lot. And I think, COVID, it was like divorces were at an all-time high.
Oh yeah,
Everything was through the roof. I know the cartel was happy because their sales went through the roof and nobody was working. So it was like the borders were really open because everybody was at
right,
home.
right,
So
absolutely, absolutely. So, but my question was, how were they getting all of this stuff when they were supposed to be in the house? How were they getting it? But that's a
yeah.
whole nother story.
Yeah, yeah. I have some really good collaborations coming up in 2024 that I think are going to be very valuable.
Hmm.
I can say a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but so one of the most biggest kingpin cartel members and I are going to be collaborating, and it's kind of crazy because I was married to one.
Uh-huh.
And but this person was up there. I mean, he was up there. He has his own story. So we're gonna be collaborating for 2024. So we're gonna be literally talking about, it's like the agent and the cartel member and how our worlds collide. And
Uh-huh.
he pretty much breaks down the entire cartel, and then I will break down the entire aspect of how we try to see at each other. And the funny thing is actually I actually have more in common with him than anybody else, because I was on this side and on that side.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But going back to the safety thing, the other thing that I hate that people do, and they just don't see anything wrong with it, is they leave everything in their car at plain
Right.
sight view. And it's like that's like the easiest target. I mean, we're talking like here in Texas, there's guns and iPads and AirPods and I mean all types of stuff. So,
And then they're surprised when their car gets broken into.
and then they're surprised when their car gets broken into. But it's crazy because now you're seeing cars getting broken into. I'm sure you see it in California too. Hurricane, I don't know where you're at, but now you're seeing cars getting broken into that are inside secure garage sales,
Yes.
inside like the actual compound garage. So it's
Yes.
like, and then a lot of people start thinking there's a lot of inside jobs going on, because
Yes.
the security there knows what you're driving. They know the times that you leave and come home. So it's so easy to have somebody be an insider. You know, you just turn off the cameras didn't catch anything. So
Well, I mean, well, technically, a lot of the crimes are inside jobs in the first place. I mean, it's people that know you, your
Right.
behavior, as you said.
yeah, there always are. They know what you have, they know what time you leave, they know your schedule. And yeah, it's crazy. Stop bringing all those people to your house.
Well, actually, these guys don't even care about whether the car is in the driveway or not. I mean, I've
They'll take
had
it.
in my neighborhood, we've had car break-ins, and including my driveway. They actually got into my cars, but they didn't. I park them differently the way I do it. Plus, they sold my press stuff, and they kind of missed, that they didn't want to deal with the nonsense. But besides that, I mean, I can tell you, it's amazing. But they didn't care, and even the footage, like I have cameras, and the
You
camera that
can't see
was,
anything
yeah,
unless you have like, state of the art. Yeah.
no, we saw the vehicle, but you couldn't zoom in. It was too far
That's
to
what I'm
see like the
saying.
plates.
Yeah.
We know the time, we know the type of vehicle. I mean, at least the shape of it. It was an SUV and things like that, and he hit multiple houses. But they didn't steal any cars. They're just trying to see like what else. But the one thing you mentioned that is dangerous. A lot of cars have the buttons, synced into the garage, and they can just press that button and the door opens. Now, obviously, if it makes noise,
Right,
it
right.
yeah, it's very easy. They can get into the car, they can get into your garage. And that's the other thing. They may get in the garage, maybe not in the house, but if you have things in the garage, because a lot of us put stuff in the garage,
In the
that's
garage, right?
that's easy to take, right?
Right. And look, I'm always gonna go for the dog. Like I know people don't like dogs, but dogs can hear what things that we can't hear at different frequencies. And as long as that dog barks, it's gonna wake you up. So
Yes.
again, a lot of people are like, oh, they can just kill the dog. They can, but you'll hear that extra alarm because it
Right,
really is
right.
a big deal. I'll give you guys a story, and this is a true story that's going into book two. My husband and I, my ex, we were living in a very affluent neighborhood here in Houston, and we had crazy cameras. Okay, you could just imagine our house was like a fort. His car was outside, and we lived in a cul-de-sac, but our cul-de-sac did not have a gate. And I had told the cul-de-sac we need a gate because the gate is going to, even if they disabled the gate, they still have to physically get out of the car to open the gate. This is
Right.
why a lot of celebrity uh, neighborhoods have these crazy gates with, the security. That's another line of defense.
Another layer.
Anyway, they weren't going for it. They're like, we're not spending this money to put up this gate. And I said, okay. So there was these kids. They weren't even professionals. They came and they were hitting up the 80 houses. And a lot of my neighbors, because we were living in an affluent neighborhood, when you call the cops are there in like a second. They hit up all these cars and they took guns, they took iPads, they took everything. Well, they got to my house and I sleep very lightly because I'm not a deep sleeper because of all the trauma I've been to. Unless I'm medicated and I'm totally out,
Uh-huh.
I'm up. They started breaking into my husband's car and I'm literally like, get up, go. So I get up, I get my gun, the dog's barking, the cameras are going off. I literally went out there and had the guy on the floor, like by the throat, and the other two little guys ran. They were wearing sandals. I'm like, how do you come to steal cars wearing sandals? Right? Anyway,
The
It
sandal,
reminds me of the
the
guys that
sandals
are running
thieves.
with their trying to pull their pants up, you
I'm
know?
gonna call them
I
chancla boys.
right. So I had this kid, and I say kids because they were high school kids. Like
Mhm.
these kids literally were like, "Hey, we got nothing to do. Let's go hit up this neighborhood." And I'm sure everybody's car's open. I had this kid. I was straddling him, and I had the gun to his head, and I
Mhm.
literally had to snap out of it. And I had, before I ran out the door, I had hit my button for the police. When the police got there, I had blown my cover in the neighborhood of who I was because the neighbors came out and were like, what is she doing? And then the cops, yeah, the cops were like, are you law enforcement? And I was like, no, I'm a desperate housewife, because that's what I was playing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the kids got caught and it made the local news and they wanted to put, and I was like, no, 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 don't put me in the news, just you take the credit. But I mean, it's stuff like that where, sometimes I'll just react and it's part of who I was. And and
Right.
trauma that I've been, you just go into, it's almost like the people that come out of the military and they try
Right.
to reintegrate back into, the civil life. But yeah,
That,
I literally was
that's
like,
a really good point that you bring up, though, as these people are out there doing all of this stupid stuff, they have no idea who they may come up against.
encounter.
You know,
Yeah,
that desperate housewife, that little old granny, you don't
yeah,
know what her true background may be. So, you know,
yeah.
anytime you step into someone's situation, you're putting yourself at risk
At
and you're
risk, for
stupid for
sure.
doing it, you
For
know?
sure. Did you guys see that case? This just happened 3 months ago. This Robert, this is in Texas. Everything happens here, guys.
Everything happens in
Everything
Texas.
happens in Texas because everybody's carrying here. We all
Right,
have the little grannies, they have guns. Everybody's
right,
packing. This
right.
guy came into this restaurant and was robbing people. And there was an old man who took out his gun
Oh, I saw that.
and, and shot him and killed
Hmm.
him. Well,
Hmm.
they did not prosecute him for murder because he was a good Samaritan and he was trying to keep everybody safe. And
Right.
because the robber had a gun and he was pointing it at people's faces, that whenever you have a gun and you're pointing it at people, it's with an intent to kill, attempted murder. And
Hmm.
so the guy did not get prosecuted. And he was like this old man that
Hmm.
he literally just took out his gun and shot the guy.
Yeah,
So yeah.
You,
yeah.
you don't want to mess with people in Texas because some are carry like open carries, some are otherwise, but it doesn't matter.
Well,
I mean,
going back to the story, there's some really interesting, California is different. There's a really interesting laws in Texas that I had to make myself accustomed to when I moved down here because, I'm from Chicago. One of them is if you are on my property and I feel like you're threatening me, I can kill you. I can kill you as long as you're on my property line. So I could have killed that kid that I
Hmm.
had. I could have killed him because he was
Hmm.
breaking into my property. So,
Hmm.
well, actually, sadly, true story. I mentioned my best friend, but I mean his cousins. I mean his nephew was killed in Texas with the gunshot. Somebody shot him.
oh,
And
was
he
that the
was,
kid that went into the wrong house?
no, this was a year plus more than a year ago. I know there's a recent one that happened
Yeah,
recently. No, but this happened about maybe 2 years ago or so. Same thing. I mean, the guy had an argument. Boom, he got shot. Boom, dead. That's it. And then I don't know if there's anything because even the family is not getting much from the prosecution on the other side. So I mean,
Hmm.
actually, if you ask me, I'm actually in the borderline with New York. So I'm in the Jersey side, and the laws are a little tougher here, just as much as maybe a little bit. You can have your pieces and stuff. You can't carry. I mean, you have to have special permits. But I think there's 30 plus states that I actually I do have my permits and stuff, and so I can carry in 30 states, but I can't do anything in. I took all the licensing stuff that you can do for others, but in
yeah,
Jersey you can only go to a range or whatever, or at home, but you can't do anything with it in your vehicle and things like that. So the rules are tight. But you're right. Someone comes to your home, you
Don't mess
gotta,
her
and
up.
that goes to that question of the Second Amendment. There's a lot of debate about whether you shouldn't. Does it make
yeah.
sense?
Like, did you
I mean,
feel threatened? Of course
yeah.
you feel threatened.
Well, you're right. I mean, if someone puts a gun at you, I mean, I'm in the martial arts world, right? So one of the trainings that we do, I mean, specifically stuff that we do, there is close combat, and therefore there is gun training and things like that. And one thing, I mean, I actually there is a footage of my professor on YouTube in one of the training camps, and him and my direct son say they had an actual skit, and they used one of those training guns, and
Yeah,
and he said, here's a gun. There's two things. If you move, I'm going to shoot you, and it simulates an actual shot, and you will see that it's split second, it's done. But he did say if the assailant is stupid enough to get close enough to touch you, then you have every obligation to take him down.
access to, yeah,
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 and the technique was to show like how you can take the gun away and disarm. But the fact of the matter is, it is as serious as that. And when you go to gun safety, the first thing they tell you, you do not point at anything they don't intend to shoot. So if someone puts a gun in front of your face or waves a gun, even by accident, that thing can actually make
right.
damage. So it's not a fun thing. it is a very serious, obviously piece of I guess hardware, and it's dangerous. It's lethal, in the wrong hands, and even in sometimes even the good hands can make a mistake.
Mhm.
So it's very
Mhm.
difficult. Uh,
Absolutely.
and the
Absolutely.
judgment, there's adrenaline, there's fear, there's all these things that can happen, and it can be very easily done in a very just nonchalant way, and then somebody's
Right.
life is taken or your life is taken. So it's very serious stuff. And again, but home defense is home defense, right? Someone comes to you, they're still debatable. I've actually asked this question many times. What if someone is in your house? I mean, that's why I was told, like, you gotta have a camera so you can provide the documentation the person was in your house, and so that's the thing. If you really fear about it, have a camera inside. So when people walk, not outside, they got to be inside so they can see them physically in the building. I mean, and that depends on counties and states and things like that. So you have a lot of these things that happen. Of course, people that don't believe in the Second Amendment, that's okay, but it's only real when it's real, when you're facing that threat. Now here's two things.
Yeah, and I
You
tell
know,
you what, if they're in my house, I don't care what the Second Amendment or the 50th Amendment says, if they're in my house, I am going to take that as a threat and I am going to, by whatever means necessary, try to neutralize them. I'm not playing.
and and
Yeah.
you- and and that's exactly right. I mean, it's amazing that it could happen to anyone. Don't think that your neighborhood, good, affluent, not. There are people that they're gonna do stuff and they want
Yeah.
to.
I mean, Cheryl, how many of the celebrities get their houses broken into? And those crazy stalkers, how they get in?
On a regular. As a matter of fact, I was actually in the UK vacationing in the UK, and I ended up when I went to Ireland, I ended up chatting with one of the Queen's Guard, and we kind of had a laugh about it. But while I was in the UK, and we were actually on I never ride those little tour buses, and I grew up in the UK, but I had my ex-fiance had never been to the UK, and so we took the little tour
The
bus,
little
and
bus.
we
Yeah.
were going by Buckingham Palace and all of that. And the Queen was there in residence, and that was when the knucklehead broke into the Queen's bedroom, and it was like, really,
Right.
really?
I mean, let's just go further and look at this country. I write about this in the book. All these people that went and rushed the Congress, and we have the most strongest military in the world. We have, nukes and all types of stuff that we have, and you have all these people just rushing into Congress and nobody could keep them back. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, and then you have weird things happen because actually, I'm not going to say the state or anything, but I was living in another state and I had my own clinic, and the sheriff of that city or that town, the sheriff and his wife were my patients. And there came a point in time when I was having trouble with my air conditioner. And I had just kind of offhandedly mentioned that I was having trouble with my air conditioner. Well, I was coming and going late at night often. And at that particular time, I had some things going in my life that kind of put me into the public eye. And so I had measures in place where I had safety measures going on. And one of those safety measures was, if for any reason I felt threatened, I could call on the police department and I could get police escorts and stuff like that. And there came a point where I was frequently calling them because I have a semi-photographic memory. And so if anything is moved, even just a little bit, I know that something's different. And I kept seeing things moved when I would come home from work. Things would be moved. It might be a screen that was just slightly off, or um, a piece of a Chotsky that was slightly moved. And so I would call the police and I would say, this is somebody's been here. And so they started to think that I was nuts, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, one night it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I go home, and I hadn't been there since early in the morning. So when I walk into the house, the first thing I realize is that there's a light left on in the back of
Wow.
the house in my bathroom.
Mhm.
And I thought, geez, I thought I turned the lights off. And I had my littlest was disabled. I had him on my hip, and my other kids were a little bit older, but they're still young. And I go into the bathroom, and we had the situation where the shower had a light directly over the shower, and then there was a main light. And I never, ever, ever, ever turned the shower light on because there was no need. The main light was bright enough. I never
Yeah.
needed to. So as I came back, the first thing that hit me was that the shower light was
Was
on. And
that?
I'm like, okay, that's all wrong. Well, when I flicked on the main light, I could see that my towels had been used and there was water on the shower door. So this told me that someone had been in my bathroom, taken a shower, and that they had done it recently enough for my towels to be wet and the shower door to have water. So now I'm freaking out, and I'm backing up. And I told the other kids, because now I have no idea if there's someone in the house or whatever. I told the other kids to run for the tree line. We had acreage. I was like, run for the tree line and don't come out until mommy tells you to. And I'm on the cell phone, which that was in still the earlier days, so the cell phone was kind of sketchy and it only worked at certain places. And
Right.
I'm cell phone and I'm telling them, I think there might be somebody in my house. And I was like, and this is for real. I explained the water and everything. I was like, I'm going to need some help. And so they said, help is on the way. And I heard sirens starting, which was really pretty phenomenal because I was way freaking out in the country. Okay.
Yeah.
But I hear the sirens. And so I'm heading to the front of the house, and they're saying, well, just stay on the phone and stay in the house. No, I'm not staying in the house. They could still be in the house. And they're like, well, stay on the phone. Well, the minute I leave the house, the signal is going to be gone until I hit, the front end of the house in the dark. Not doing that. I'm going out to the tree line with the kids. They're like, no, stay there. We need you to stay, in contact with us. And as I'm heading out, I hear that the sirens have all stopped. It sounded like they got farther away and they all stopped. And I'm like, oh crap, they're not coming. So now I'm outside of the house and I hear, and it's like, oh my God, there's someone in the driveway with me. Now, fortunately for me and for them, I did not have a gun because, I've got a small disabled child on my hip, kids in the tree line. I'm a mama bear. I'd have shot someone just based on
Yeah.
those skittering
Just on
rocks.
that, yeah.
And what it turns out had happened, they killed the sirens, killed the lights, and they were rolling the cars up into the driveway. And
Smart.
so, they came in, SWAT was there, everybody came through, and they went through that house with a fine-tooth comb, only to find out that someone had literally been living off and on up in my attic. And the cue that told us eventually who it was that all of the electrical stuff for the broken air conditioner underneath had been repaired, and I had only told one person. So they were able to track it back to the sheriff. It was
Wow.
the sheriff.
That's a
So
great book.
whoa, damn! I didn't expect that. I mean, tracing
yeah.
back to someone. I mean, maybe a contractor, the
No.
sheriff.
Yeah, because
Wow.
they all kept saying, "Oh, your ex-husband. What about your ex-husband?" But it turned out that it was the sheriff, and I was just like, "Oh my God, you can't be safe, anywhere with anybody."
Yeah. You can't. Money
Oh, yeah.
talks. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of which, right? You mentioned something, Angelica, earlier about the safety and things. I mean, right now you have the lacing of money, you have those things about the cars where they throw in, a business card, money or something on your windshield. And,
Right.
so there's a lot of these things going on right now. There's also organ, harvesting, from people. And so there's beyond
That's a
that. I mean,
huge industry. Yeah,
yeah, there's crazy stuff that's out there, and it's happening. It's not. We're talking about the states here, but it's happening all over the world. I mean,
it really is.
these shows are worldwide, but it's happening everywhere. It's happening in the states, even in the best locations that you think this is not potential. It's still
Right.
happening. You just got to be aware. You got to be vigilant. You got to keep your eyes open, and don't keep lights on, do the certain things, always look out, when you walk into your driveway, you never know someone is in the bushes. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, it's
Mhm.
sad,
Yeah.
but it is real.
The
Yeah.
number one thing that I always tell people that they don't do, I hope both of you guys will start doing this now. The reason why I know this is because I was undercover and I used to chase people for a living and I used to follow people for a living. You can follow somebody for days and you will never notice because you never look behind you. You have to be aware of cars that are following you, people that are following you. You really have to be aware of your surroundings because everybody is out to do harm. And it's crazy because I used to do surveillance and, we would always do two cars behind. We would always
Mhm.
do two cars behind and they would never notice because people aren't looking in the back. They're so preoccupied with the front. But now people are even more occupied with
Phones.
social media that
Mhm.
I can chase you for days and you will not even know it. So we don't really need to because we could just hack into your phone and look at your location. But
Well,
if we do needed it to get, footage of you going in places and talking to people and taking pictures and video, they don't notice because they're so caught up in their own world and their own mind that they don't look to see that there's cars following you. So
so is this the trick? You got to go around the block a couple of times, make a few turns to see if the vehicle is going to follow. Does that work still?
it does work,
It did
but
for me.
yeah, definitely. Or change the trajectory of where you're going, end up going to a public place.
Hmm.
And, because sometimes now it depends on who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a seasoned professional, then you got to be a lot more, you got to outsmart them. But if you're dealing with somebody that's dumb and then they're just doing, dumb stuff, they're going to be very visible. But just things, don't go out in the middle of the night. Don't go to they always say people end up in the wrong side of town by themselves, or it's a common sense. A lot of people lack common sense now. And I think it's because our lives have been digitized that everything is already pre-made for us.
Right.
But, these old school street smarts that, we were used to dealing with is crazy now. We
Hmm.
used to have those cars that weren't automatic and you had to pull the little thing down.
Right.
But I mean, just little things like that. Breaking into cars right now is so easy. It's so easy to break into cars. And there's cars that are more susceptible than others. Like of course the Chargers. Everybody's after the Chargers because of the parts that the Chargers have. And
Right.
they'll strip your car and leave and thank you for leaving it on some cinder blocks, but your car will be skeletonized in like a matter of minutes because people are just so good at what they're doing. So
And
yeah.
again, does that whole digital thing lend more to having your car stolen because they can digitally get into your car?
Yeah, I mean, now cars are, and especially now they're going into electric, but I don't know if you guys saw what Ford is going to be doing. So Ford is testing technology that if you don't pay for your car, the car is going to be activated to drive on its own and leave your property or leave and drive back to the dealership. This,
Oh
this
my
just
God,
this
that's a
just
good
came
one.
out. Yeah, this just came out.
Hilarious.
So now guess what? We don't need the repo truck because the car is
Oh,
just going to
that's
be, hey,
hilarious.
drive back. Or they're going to deactivate the cars where you can't drive them anymore. And then you don't have to put boots on them. So,
Right.
I mean, this digital world is really taking over. And there's bots now. The Elon Musk has these robots, and I think it hurt somebody, and so we're definitely going into an era where tech is everything. Tech is everything. You can get into your bank account, you can get into your, you know, all types of stuff. Medical records. You can get into medical records of all, logins and stuff like that.
It's
So
actually kind of scary because I mean, we've all seen the movies and now we're watching it become reality right in front of us. And we've also all seen that some of those outcomes were not so good. And it's like, you know what? I can see those outcomes being real too. And so it's kind of frightening.
yeah, we still in the government we still have actual records, like paper records, but a lot of doctors' offices don't have records anymore. There's
Right.
the need to actually have physical records is now dying, and everything is
Right.
digitized now. So it's like records are online, which opens them up to being able to be hacked and taken. So
Exactly.
yeah. We just have to be vigilant, and as we could have, like crypto. So, you can get hacked into your crypto accounts and not and be completely liquidated. And if you don't know about the blockchain is very difficult to follow. That's another way that,
Happened to
assets can be
me.
taken, identities can be taken. So it's a lot.
I
It's a
I
lot.
had
We're
my
gonna overwhelm
NFT
our viewers.
stolen.
They're gonna go live in a hole in the wall. And then also like bunkers, right? A lot of people are building bunkers and
Right.
all that good stuff. So, or what are they
What
called?
what
Safe
what what,
room.
what do you think of that new movie? Uh, the one with Julia Roberts, leaving the world behind or something like that. Just came out.
Mhm.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it, and
That's creep. That's scary
it is
stuff.
crazy. It's a crazy
Okay,
thought.
wait. Give us a rundown because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, so there's this new movie that it's basically there's something that's happening and we there's an invasion and people knew about it and the people that were prepared they were ready, they had their stock of food, they had the bunkers, they have doomsday bunkers ready for
Mhm.
everything, and the other ones will be just pretty much fighting for each other. There's so the movie is really it's happening like these days. And I mean, it's when you watch it, I mean, there's a lot of real stuff in that movie that you see it's happening. There's almost like, hints, hey, it's like Red Dawn, reincarnated in a much robust version of today. And it actually, it's funny talking about Elon Musk. It had the Teslas, self-driving cars crashing on each other and just doing stuff. It was really kind of creepy movie, but it's really, you watch it, you can understand that it's a scenario that can be happening today, or it is already happening. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not a theorist, but it's kind of like really, it's a potential scenario that. And by the way, there's not a movie that I've seen before in history that didn't have some reality to it, and or
Right.
events that occurred beyond that event. So it's almost like predictions. Hey, this is gonna happen. Get prepared. Get ready.
right,
Don't say we didn't
right.
warn you. And there's a
Right.
new one that's coming out now, Civil War or something.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of theories out there, and I'm sure you guys saw the whole alien thing in Miami,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
the
how
portal.
come, right? And it's look, I have a whole chapter in my book about aliens. I do believe in aliens. Obviously, I have a little bit more insight on why I do that. I do talk about it in the book.
Hmm.
Um, but
Uh-oh. Area
yeah,
51.
yes,
Roswell, baby.
yes. And but I thought it was interesting because people brought up, every time, how many cop cars were out there and, all that, which is legit. It's legitimate context as to why there were so many calls car. And then of course we have these amazing phones with all this technology and we get this blurb.
Right.
So yeah, I think everybody has their own little opinions on that. But just to talk about actual information that was out there and it's public knowledge, because I didn't write anything in the book that was not public knowledge that was outside of my life. The Pentagon had announced that they had spent over $5 billion on UFO training or UFO experimentation. So it's like
Mhm.
if the Pentagon is telling you that they spent tax dollars on UFO research, why would they be if there's nothing out there, why are we spending this money? What is it that we're doing with it? So
Right,
yeah.
right. The questions you're not supposed to ask.
Listen, I choose to believe that when we hear things, there, like, as I say, there's the smoke, there's fire, right? You
Absolutely.
gotta believe that there is stuff going on, and it's as real as it comes. I mean, you know, it's sad, but it's sometimes in your face. I mean, you can't even make this
Right.
up. It's really right there. I mean, we had the pandemic, right? And I'm not saying that the pandemic had, any sort. We're not going to that route of, theories here, but it's not something we didn't expect. I mean, we've seen Outbreak movie, we've seen a few contaminations, we've seen a few other
Exactly.
movies in history that depicted
Exactly.
exactly that scenario.
Andromeda.
Yeah, we've seen all those. I I think, Doctor, this. I was an extra in the movie The Siege with Denzel Washington and Bruce Willis, which was almost the events of 9/11, and it was a few years
Right. Right.
before that. And it was almost the same exactly. The scenarios that were there were already in.
Right.
You add that with the Executive Decision, the movie that was done also.
Yeah.
You have 9/11 exactly what happened. So I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if someone just watches movies and acting on them, but the fact is, you see things, you got to start wondering. You got The Simpsons with their predictions, forget about it. I mean, you know, as much as we can say it's not real, it's just fake stuff, it's just to play our minds. But here's the thing, folks. If you see it, you got to at least investigate it. That's all I can say. See it for yourself, figure out for your own, what that means to you, but don't
Right.
just take it for granted.
Right.
What do you
Absolutely.
think, Doc?
I'm totally in agreement with you. I'm totally in agreement with you. And some people call me what do you call it? Um, a theorist,
Okay, okay.
and call me what you want, but I look at things critically at a time when I think that most people don't, you know. Um, and conspiracy theory or not, a lot of the quote conspiracies are proving not to be conspiracies at all.
Yeah.
And I think what we see coming out speaks for itself. So don't be gullible, be vigilant. And if you see it, then until proven otherwise, it exists. And at least investigate it to the point where you are comfortable in your knowledge base and where it's congruent with your beliefs. So anybody can tell you anything. And I mean, I think that's going to become really important because we're seeing all sorts of things on the internet right now. And, just because you see it come across your screen doesn't mean it's so. Investigate it and make sure that before you throw it back out there, that it's real because so much of what's coming across the screens now is not real. And so much of what is coming is going to become more and more confusing. It's going to become harder and harder and harder to decipher, what's live and what's
Oh yeah,
memorized.
for sure. Well, I mean, that was why we had the actors and the writers strike,
Mm-hmm.
because AI is now can we don't even need actors anymore. So,
Exactly,
or
exactly.
writers.
Something came across my
Hey,
internet today, and it for me, and part of the reason for me is because I've been looking at AI very closely lately, but it was very clear to me that this was AI and that what was being promoted, there was an agenda and it was a celebrity, and it's like that's not real, that's AI. But a lot of people jumped on and commented on it as if this celebrity had really spoken these words because they believed that it was the celebrity
it
that
was
was doing
that.
it, and
Yeah.
it was definitely AI. You could, they still haven't got the cadences perfect on the AI. There's still that slightly
Robotics.
mechanical
Yeah.
sound, the robotic sound to it. So it wasn't just quite right, but a lot of people got fooled.
Doctor, you didn't like my reel with that creepy dude, right?
No, I didn't like Mr. Creepy. I did not
Yeah,
like him at
yeah,
all.
that was me testing with the AI stuff. And actually, I put the script and I throw it in there and dumped it in the AI, and he was
Yeah,
very creepy. Like,
It was very
yeah,
creepy. Yeah. A lot
yeah,
of people are starting to use it because now you don't actually have to do any videos. You just put a
right,
script in and upload, a video of you and it'll just spit out a liking of you. It's like
right,
those holograms. Remember they did those holograms on Tupac at Coachella?
yes.
right.
And it was cool. You're like, oh my God, look at this thing. You could touch it. But
There's a Michael Jackson concert that was done too, with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
complete
yeah.
hologram. You know what they say, right? Yeah, like the old Morpheus will say, Matrix is real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's actually, I mean, it's one of my favorite movies, but it does touch on a lot of stuff that we have today. And you're right, there will be a point where's reality, where's not, and that could be very confusing for some people, maybe
yeah.
all of us, because like you said, you can have a full, literally deep fake with the voice and everything now that you can't even tell the difference. And I mean, they've tested these things, and now
Yeah.
remember, you're looking at normal people doing stuff, but the experts, they can do more than what we actually do on TikToks
Oh,
and
yeah.
the Insta. Yeah, you wouldn't even tell the difference if it was done by real professional businesses, and
Yeah,
you know
yeah. And I mean the thing is it's here. It's here.
ain't going nowhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on. And you guys know this because I live in Texas. There's a lot of tech companies that are moving to Texas from
Yes.
California. Obviously, the rent is cheaper here. And there's just incredible technology. Here in Houston, there was a big conference where they were talking about that they're trying to wipe out you actually driving a car, and that
Yeah.
there will be cars that are self-driven cars that will come pick you up, drop you off, and then will go inside of a complex like a garage. And so
Hmm.
they won't you won't actually own any cars anymore, and it's
Hmm.
like be like the Jetsons, where it's like they come and they get you, like Ubers won't have to have actual physical people in them anymore. And I know when
They
I was
have
in
them.
California,
They have them. They
yeah, there's
tested
Oh
them.
already
yeah.
that.
They're already out there.
I know in California, you guys have those little robots that bring you the food because I would see them on Instagram all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Well, this is amazing because even on the security measure, right? So I was in Dubai about a couple of months ago, and I can tell you, we actually went to the country. Literally, we didn't talk to anyone. We walked in, put a passport, got scanned, and walked right in. I mean, there was nobody to test you, to
Yeah,
check
that's
you,
how
to
it
talk to you.
was that's how it was in Paris. When I went to Paris, there was no what is it, a homeland security person? No, it was just a computer. And some of them worked and some of them didn't. And I'm like, I worked by
But actually, now they just in Abu Dhabi, the other side, they actually now gonna have a full automated airport access. You walk in, you don't even need a passport. You just walk right through. You pre-vetted, you're scanned, you match some biometrics somewhere, and you're either clear or not clear. That's it. you know,
Wow.
I mean, and just that's exactly where it's going. I mean, and there will be less use of humans as workers and laborers and all these things because everything's going to be done in from a back room by some computer. Cybernet,
And
like
that's all cool until you
Skynet.
get
Skynet is
flagged.
is on the horizon.
right,
Uh,
the Jetsons.
Oh yeah, well think about it. The Jetsons was something we've watched when we were kids. At least you know, and it was like spacious stuff. Star Trek, Star Wars, things that you like. Holograms were in Star Wars like in the 70s. Now they're
right.
real. I mean, you can literally see them. I mean, actually, there is a technology. There's a new company that you get this hologram box, and the person basically just projects in front of you as a full
Hmm.
size human that is you're interacting with the meta world, for example. Now you can literally, I can this
Yeah.
Zoom or this show. We could have been in a studio right now together while we're doing this way, and that's actually going to be the next phase where we're be
Right.
sitting in front of each other on a nice comfort, and we all look like we're in the same room, but we're actually different, places in the world.
The future of
Yeah.
podcasts. Yeah.
The future
Yeah,
of podcast.
they
You imagine?
actually can do that already because the
They do, yeah.
interview, I don't remember. I want to say it was between Oprah and Obama. It was Obama and somebody, and they were not in the same room together. But
But on the video, they had them. Yeah.
yeah,
Actually, on in the 2008 election, they had holograms in CNN where they actually, I do remember when they were doing the
They
whole,
were doing the speeches. They brought
yeah,
them. Yeah.
they had all these, the what do you call them? The electoral, votes and stuff and the numbers. And they had these guests that came in on hologram, into the studio, and it looked real. I mean, it was like, we know that it was holograms, but I mean, this is like 2008. I mean, just
yeah.
imagine what it's going to be in the next decade. I mean, it's amazing stuff.
Mhm.
And that also touches on our safety because then you don't know who's what where.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I'll tell you this and then you can do the math, right? So when I was doing undercover work, this is so long ago, so the technology just you could just imagine what it's like now. But we had these little stickers that we can put outside of your house. And then we would have these lasers that would activate the little sticker, and then
Uh-huh.
we can hear inside your house. So this, I
Oh,
mean, this was
wow.
this was like '06. So I mean,
Wow.
Well,
you can imagine now.
you remind me, if you watch The Siege, the movie, the Tony Shalhoub, the FBI guy with Denzel, when they went to this, van, surveillance van, and they had the guys with like I think it was the government guys, Bruce Willis's crew. The They had the microwave, version of the technology where they can actually not only hear and they can see everything, and the
Uh-huh.
heat signals. It's like, oh my god, microwave! They got microwave. That scene was so hilarious. It wasn't funny. I mean, you'll get the joke as a surveillance, person. You would
Right,
know what
right.
that was like, a cool thing. But imagine that's like then that's a '90s. But I
Yeah,
mean, this stuff is like, you can't make it up anymore. Technologies are just like exceedingly, fast in the making here. So, wow.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Angelica, do you have one last bit of advice for those of us that are trying to
Stay
stay
safe.
safe in a very complex world?
Yeah, I would say just be very vigilant of how, when you post, the things that you post, the things that you say, because it can't, once it's out there in the world, they can't be taken back. So it's almost like the digital blueprint. So you just have to be very vigilant, and go back to when we didn't have technology, and you just have to be aware of who's following you physically, digitally, and just be aware of your surroundings. Make sure your house is safe. If you can get an alarm system, great. If you have a dog, great. But
And even a little dog counts.
even
Even
a
a little
little yappy
You have
dog
two
for
of them.
sure.
Yes, I have two of them. And as someone who works in the ER, we get more people coming into the ER, the postmen particularly, but we get more people coming into the ER for little dog bites than for the big ones.
Yeah, and it just poses a distraction for somebody that something else I got to deal with coming into your
Mhm,
house. But
mhm,
yeah, just really is a posting. I think we live in an era where we're just obsessed with showing off our lifestyles, showing off everything we're doing down to where we're eating, what we're eating at the restaurant. And
mhm,
it's encouraged. It's encouraged because everything is marketing. So
mhm,
to just being very aware of your digital safety, not giving away too much information, where you're at, what you're doing, who you're hanging around with, where your kids go to school, things like that, or giving an insight to your routine. Switch it up
mhm, mhm.
because it's very easy to follow people. It's very easy to figure out where they're at nowadays. So yeah, just be very vigilant.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Those were such great tips and I mean, just such interesting insight. So thanks for being here with us. And you have been watching Chatters That Matter. I'm your show host, Dr. Cheryl Bryant Bruce, MD, the celebrity doc, here with my co-host, Hisham Elamati, Hurricane H. And we have been here with the beautiful Angelica Robles, an investigator who has been sharing with us some tips on how to be safe in a very complex world. We thank you, Angelica, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we thank you, the audience, for being with us. Again, this show is here to educate, inform, and entertain you. We've been listening to Chatters That Matter. We want you to go out there. We want you to give us those likes, give us the shares, tell your friends, leave a comment. Jessica, if anybody wants to ask you any questions, get some tips, get you onto a show, how do we reach out to you?
Yeah, so very simple at Angelica, at the Angelica Robles is my Instagram. I'm all social medias is the same thing. And then I have a website. It's www.angelicaroblesofficial. So yeah, I'm pretty easily, you can find me pretty easily.
And we will put all of that up on the website, and go and tag Angelica, like her, follow her, and support her. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you. We're here Mondays and Wednesday nights on pretty much every platform you can cover, whether it's a visual platform or an auditory platform. We are everywhere, and we enjoy sharing the experience with you. So give us some feedback, give us a shout out. Chatters That Matters, Hurricane H, and the Celebrity Doc. Remember, health is wealth. You are your greatest asset. Always invest in yourself.
So thank you so much for having me on Chatters That Matter. I'm so privileged and honored to be a part of this show. And please watch them on all platforms. And thank you again.